Another aspect of NXT I wanted to discuss coming off of last night, and I'd love to know the philosophy and the thought process. As we sit here in late 2024 and you look at the you look at the NXT roster, it's young. It should be young. We are talking about people that are in their mid-20s, early 20s, some later 20s, some are in the 30s. So if you do the math on that, it's a bit wild that we are talking up a promotion that has been dead for 23 years. ECW has been dead as a promotion for 23 years. WWE buying ECW, putting it on their airwaves, rebranding it. It's not this. That's the WWE. That's not ECW. Dawn Marie, Bubba. Those are not. Those are people from the original ECW, not from the Sheamus, Goldust, Zack Ryder, Christian, Tommy Dreamer, Jack Swagger, CM Punk, Matt Striker, Elijah Burke, ECW. By the way, the WWE version of ECW was not a bad show. It just had the wrong branding on it. I think it would have been looked upon very differently in history if it was called NXT or something else from the jump. It was never what ECW was. They just used the branding. But for a brand, a promotion that for all intents and purposes has been dead for 23 years, I find it interesting that WWE is reaching back into that history. That's not even really their history, to promote their developmental brand, NXT, their youngest brand. Their brand that the majority of wrestlers who are on it were either not alive or extremely young for ECW. And look, we have Peacock. We have the WWE Network. We're going to have AEW on Max. We have New Japan World. We have all of these ways to watch wrestling and see stuff from the past, and there's clip going up all the time. Of course you can educate yourself. But it seems weird in a way to go, remember that promotion from 20 plus years ago? Yeah, we're going to use that to help promote NXT next week. And I promise you, there are a lot of people in NXT locker room that have had to learn what the hell ECW is or was. Absolutely, that's a thing. So next week at the ECW Arena in Philadelphia, we have 2 ECW originals being used, 3, I guess, if you count RVD. But the major one is Bubba Dudley. Full disclosure, obviously, from time to time, I work with Bubba on Busted Open Radio. I think I've only worked with him once, maybe twice since I've come back earlier this year. Worked more with Dreamer, worked more with Mark Henry, Denise, and the Sunday guys. But I've known Bubba for quite some time. Bubba, admittedly, I don't agree with everything he says. I know he can be rough around the edges. I know he can be brash and abrasive. I've also, to be fair, learned from him. We have different mindsets about certain things, but we actually agree on other things. It's just how we deliver it. And he helped me in House of Hardcore, and I think we played off each other well on the radio. And he has been, whether you like it or not, someone who's been able to keep his name out there, continues to get bookings, continues to stay in the wrestling universe in some way, shape, or form, whether it be via Busted Open or TNA or working at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling over last weekend or whatever it may be. He has stayed in the mix. seems to have some kind of, legends, whatever with WWE. And now, and I don't know how this came together, he goes from working the pre-show with LaGreca, and good for those guys, to turning that into, which is obviously the plan, something with Ridge. And that turning into something with Ridge is now becoming a tag match where Ridge and Ethan Page are going to take on the number one babyface in NXT, Trick Williams, who is getting that ECW Hall of Fame, we want tables rub from Bubba. And we got a lot of Bubba between Halloween Havoc and last night in NXT. If you want to connect the dots that seem the most obvious, and I'm not saying this is a good or a bad thing, we will see how it plays out. It feels like, if you listen to Bubba's promo towards Trick, I actually enjoyed the part where he's like, hey, I was watching the entrance when Ethan and Ridge were beating you up and nobody came out. Why is that? Because you're the champ. And the champ can't have friends. And I like that. I think it's a very good, I've said this a lot about WWE current day. They have now made it where you need to have backup. There's a lot of factions. There's a lot of rivalries. There's a lot of multi-person rivalries. There's a lot of, it all started with Roman. You got to have your backup. There are strength in numbers. Cody had to find a way to divide and conquer. And he did that. And Bubba was saying to Trick, you don't have any friends. So I came out and saved you. Trick's like, cool, I want revenge. Let's do it together. But Bubba gave him all the warning signs that a veteran Hall of Famer would give to Trick. He got close to Trick. He backed Trick up. He put Trick over. He talked about doing all the extra. Bubba did the greatest hits of songs he never played last night. I got to go to the extreme, Bubba. It was a very over-the-top babyface promo, which is not Bubba. And nor should it be. So Ridge and Page talk, and they basically goad Bubba out there, and he attacks. And you still need that partner? Let's do it next week. And so next week, it's Bubba and Trick against Ethan and Ridge. And I would fully expect by the end of the night, whether they win the match or it happens during the match, that Bubba's going to lay out Trick. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Trick Williams defends the NXT Championship against Bubba. And Bubba will put him over. And Bubba will get a bunch of appearances out of that. If you didn't see it yesterday, they set him up at the Performance Center to do Busted Open yesterday. So there's an understanding there. We're also going to see Dawn Marie, who hasn't been featured on programming in forever, be the referee for a hardcore match between Jada Parker and Lola Vice. That feels like a weird one to me. Also makes me wonder if it's smart to have Dawn Marie on the payroll with a lot of things that are going on legally. I'll leave that at that. And we're going to see RVD, who had these random appearances last night with Ava, being like, hey, what's going on? Yeah, I'll be at the show. And then there's the pull apart at the end of the show. And he's like, yeah, I know what I'm going to do next week. See you next week. Okay. Now RVD mixes in because he's multi-generational and multi-company. There are people that look at RVD and go, I remember one-of-a-kind guy. I remember, he was the hardcore champ. He was the IC champ. He was the WWE champ for a time. There are people that look at RVD and know him because of WWE, and there's people that look at RVD and know him because of ECW, and there's people that know him because of both. Sure. To me, he is, the biggest crossover from ECW. He's the biggest. Maybe I'm wrong. In terms of a regularly featured ECW wrestler from the original ECW, I feel like he has had the biggest career in terms of WWE. Not to say that others haven't, but I don't Austin's not an ECW wrestler to me. RVD is. You know, Ray went through ECW, but it's not like his home, as did Eddie Guerrero, as did others, as did Jericho, as did Mick Foley. But they made their names in a bigger way moving on from there. RVD was very well known, was arguably the most popular ECW guy of all time, and then became super popular in WWE. So, like, I think he continues to hold some of the most active star power from the original ECW because of what he did there and what he did in WWE. Nerdy Dude says, what's the point of the women's hardcore match? I just don't get it. Why would you book a match like that? Because they tried to be on the same page and then they weren't, and now they want to fight each other. And I'm okay with that. You're throwing Dawn Marie in. It's kind of random. Will we get any other surprises? You know, Meanie's in Philly all the time. He might be around. The ECW arena, I will tell you, is not, if you haven't seen it in a while, the one you've seen on grainy footage. It is not the bingo hall that ECW used to run in. Indie shows run there quite often. MMA shows, boxing runs. They have an old, if you think about, like, you go to a basketball game or hockey and they have the 4-board TVs above the rink or above the court. They have a small one of those now over the ring at the ECW arena. They built out a nice, it's a nicer place. It's still the bones of what the ECW arena used to be are still there, but it doesn't have that same hardcore feel. There's banners up, and I'm interested to see what they leave up, because there's ECW and hardcore banners and 2300 Hall of Fame banners. That's all up. I'm interested to see how they dress the place up, because I don't think we have seen anything get broadcast from there since Evolve ran there and WWE put it on the WWE Network. So I want to see how they dress it up. But there's a lot of capabilities to make it look pretty damn good, and you wouldn't necessarily know that, it used to be a bingo hall and Viking hall and all that stuff back in the 90s. It's cool that they're running there. I want to get back to that for a second. I am a big fan of running venues that stand out. I am a big fan. I would love someone to go back to the Mall of America, other than First Wrestling, who's done it the last couple of years. I would love AEW to run there. I would love to be, to see a match on the beach, or a venue like that, or Club La Vila, or those are fun shows to me. So next week, NXT at the ECW arena. I want to see how the current production of WWE presents that, because that's pretty cool. Hey, this is Matt Camp. Thanks for checking out one of our recent clips from the Wrestling Mat. Why is someone so close to The Rock kind of throwing Cody under the bus?
Yeah, a lot of people won't engage with Jim Cornette. I did, just because I have a mark for Jim Cornette.
Please subscribe right now. Hit the like and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. And I think you should listen to your TV partners. Let me tell you about WWE and a little insight. More subscribers means more content. And make sure you follow us on social media at WrestlingMat23 on both Twitter and Instagram.